Oh, how it pains me to do this! Except it doesn't because I'm reviewing Earthrise Starscream. Finally! I finally got one. God, it's taking me way too long. But here is the box. With a picture of Starscream right there. Starscream. That picture right there. I do like the kind of glitchy Decepticon insignia. That's kind of a neat touch with the, just Optimus floating right there. On the bottom, you got nothing. On the back, you got pictures of Starscream. Fuck it, let's do the inner thing. I don't. Hold on. Where? Where is it? Because there's no words here. Maybe it's behind this. I doubt it. Well, it's just a big Decepticon insignia. Also glitchy. Where did my thing though go? I'm looking for it. I don't see it. Supposed to be whatever. Yeah. I don't know if they just didn't put it on this box. I, hmm? Maybe somebody will. No, no. I don't see it. What a waste. Oh well. Here's Starscream in his robot mode. And we have to get out of the way. He is very much a 10 years later, 14 years later version of this. The 2006 classic Seeker mold. He is a bit more than that, but he is pretty much that. He is based off this. And here he is next to Siege. Yep, that's that. All right. Let's talk about how much I like this guy. Because it's Starscream. I mean, I don't much care for the character of Starscream, but he is fairly iconic when it comes to Transformers. So, his toy is very nice. It's not perfect, I'll say that. First off, the articulation isn't everything I'd hoped it would be, but he's still pretty damn good. So, give you a shot of the head. Very nice Seeker head. I like it. Unfortunately, he doesn't have light piping. And I kind of don't understand why. Because the back of his head, whoop, there's place for light piping in my opinion. Like this guy is light piping. And they don't have their heads aren't that different, really. They're kind of proportioned a bit differently, but Starscreams, you guys want to look at the camera? I don't have more than one camera. But I don't see why they couldn't incorporate light piping. And everything is here. It's Starscream's iconic design. There's really not much to go into. It's gray, red, and blue, light blue. It's all in the right spot, I assume. It looks very nice. There's there is some molded in detail, like on the arms, and well, no, there's a molded in detail everywhere. That little gap in between the shoulder, I don't want to say shoulder, but the collarbone towers and what are essentially his pecs, is kind of a bit distracting to me. I don't I know because it folds back, but this one does the same thing, only actually slightly different because it doesn't take them with it. So I guess for engineering, it kind of had to do that, but it is kind of unfortunately distracting. Uh, I like his guns. They do very much look like smaller versions of these just without the spring-loaded missile. I don't know. I wish we had some spring-loaded missiles in modern Transformers. Unfortunately, it's a thing of the past, like light piping was for a long time. Uh, a thing I wish he did that the deluxe one did. I wish these folded out into landing gear, because spoiler alert, he doesn't have landing gear in it anywhere. Like at least this guy had the popping out, like the illusion of landing gear. Like the wheels didn't roll, but like there were fake wheels on the bottoms of his feet, at least, like to give the impression of landing gear. But this guy doesn't have anything like that. Uh, Articulation, head is on a ball joint, very nice compared to the old guys just plain swivel. Lots of range. Can tilt quizzically, he can spin, he can look up, look down at him, into his chest. Very nice range of motion on the ball joint, like that. He does get the old cockpit kibble on the back, but it's forgivable just due to his engineering that kind of has to end up there. But other than that, there's not really much kibble, nor is there much color on the back. It's really the joints and it peeking in from the side. Shoulders, universal joint, go all the way around, and the wings actually have articulation. We'll talk about it in a second. Go all the way out. One thing I wish, so there are a couple things I wish they'd taken from Siege Starscream. One of them being the forward butterfly joint, because unfortunately this guy doesn't have it. That was a really good piece of posability on the Siege guy, and also the outward hinge of the wings. Like oh no, it's just a they swivel differently, but they basically have the same joints. Okay, well, his wings are basically the same. They just work slightly differently. And thankfully, unlike the Siege guy, they're not completely hollow. They're not completely translucent from one side. They are slightly translucent from, like, but they're not nearly as translucent as these guys' wings. These guys, you name one guy. You do get a bicep swivel. You do get a single hinge elbow with beyond 90 degrees. Very nice curl. Way better than the old guy's basic hinge. Like, well, it's 90. You get a little bit more than 90, but still anything like that is good. Another thing I wish they took from the Siege guy. This guy doesn't have wrist joints. He has a transformation joint on his wrist, but that doesn't really look good at all because it immediately, if you go past like there, it breaks the sculpt, which is really unfortunate. He also doesn't have a waist joint, which the old guy also didn't have a waist joint, but the guy had inward hand hinge as opposed to this hand hinge. he has this hand joint. And we will get to a Thundercracker version of this, hopefully, eventually, if it actually gets released in this country. Because God knows it's expensive on eBay. But skirt folds up, and you can get straight out, but you do kind of have to angle them a bit outwards, because if you just go straight forward, it doesn't go straight. It's like maneuver the thigh, and that's unfortunate. You do get a thigh swivel, very nice. I don't want to keep referring to the old guy, but the old guy had a knee swivel instead of a thigh swivel due to how he transformed. His knee beyond 90 degrees, slightly, like maybe 91 or 92 degrees, but it still looks really good. That's actually another thing I wish they had done on this that they did on the Siege was the back of the shin spring-loaded panel. Like, this is such a good idea. Why couldn't they incorporate it to get Super Tiger Knee? He even looks really good doing it. But that's just due to how he transforms and how this one transforms. They didn't do that. You do have, however, an ankle tilt, which the old guy didn't have. Not a lot of motion. Actually, can you keep going further? I don't want to risk breaking the toy, but I'd say that's about as far as you could go. You also have a hinge on both sides of the feet for transformation, and this piece is on a joint for transformation that doesn't lock in. And the knees can come undone because they're just pegged into a tiny slot due to transformation. But overall posability is pretty good. It's at least modern level good, with some unfortunate. The waist being the biggest thing I would say is due to how just that engineering. I guess they couldn't fit in a waist so thin. Maybe it'd be structurally impossible. Like, weaken the structure a lot because he's not hollow from the side, but it is very like easy to kind of find the bits of hollowness that his arms have to fill. And overall, I do like the robot mode quite a bit. It's the classic Starscream look, and while it doesn't have some of the posability tricks I like in the Siege guy, it definitely wins on the visual department over the Siege guy. So let's transform him. You have to start by removing the null rays, like always. Remove the null rays. Remove the null rays. I do like these guns. Even if I'm not going to display this guy, I'm probably going to use these somehow. So let's start with the feet. Fold them up. And you're going to want to fold the plain wing all the way until it tabs in right there. And then you can fold that bit out. You can do the same thing on the other side. And then the legs will tab in together. And you can fold down this panel, and we'll leave them for now. Fold the hips, fold the skirt up to make room for when we come back to Legsville. The arms transformation is a little bit awkward. It pulls a similar trick to the Siege guy folding in, but it doesn't capture the hand inside. But it's also a bit kind of tricky to. Well, you have to fold the panel like that, and it's okay. I guess it's not tricky when you actually know where the hinge is and not just mashing around trying to figure it out. But one thing is you have to keep this little tab, which this piece tabs the forearm piece in, you have to make sure you slide it into that hole when, like, uh, to give enough clearance for the rest of the forearm to close up like that. And that's one arm done. You have to do the same thing on the other side. Fold it out like that. Fold it up with the hand so it clears. Fold it in. You're done with the hands. I forgot to. I sort of mentioned it, but didn't mention it. Also, the wings are on multiple joints. The biggest one I would use is that joint to get out of the way of the arms. But you can also use the transformation joint. So this is not a transformation joint, but this one is. I would use that to, if you're swinging the arm randomly for whatever reason. It's very similar to the masterpiece. Oh, and just well, I have masterpiece Sunstorm over there, and I haven't played with them in a long time, so at least I think it's closely resembles the masterpiece transformation. Now, the biggest motion you're gonna do here is untab the chest, and it's not awkward. It's like there are just things kind of bumping into each other on the sides. So fold the nose over, extend, and rotate it up into place like that. And then you're going to take the hands and see, they do have a butterfly joint, but it's more for, you can't use it in robot mode, but you have to get the arms like that. So he's holding his hands together basically. And then close the panel back up. And now we can collapse the legs on that semi. Well, it's the slider they've been using since Combiner Wars, and it just makes a lot more sense. And then tab the shins back in. Well, they don't actually tab anywhere, but just fold them up, fold the skirt up, and then come back here, fold the wing until it clears that. And it's also going to peg in right here, sort of. There we go. Like that. Flap, 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 flap. Flap, 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 flap. Do the same thing on the other side. There's a little bit of a tolerance issue of getting it past the edge right here. And then actually finding the slot is there. And there is Starscream in his jet mode. It's what we've all been waiting for. It's a brand new version of the F-15 Eagle. It's iconic, classic. It looks awesome. It's got all the small amount of panel lining you want on the top jet, on the top flat surface. Oh God, Raiden. I almost knocked over Raiden. But I won. Oh, it's got the Decepticon insignias now in the right side up. I didn't show them, but they're upside down in robot mode, which is correct for Starscream. And on the underside, you can see all the robot mess, because he's not really that big on hiding his robot mess. Oh, and now we can, for the last step, we can actually reattach the noise. You can actually reattach these if you want, because they have the same peg holes, and peg size. You could also plug in the guns in the tail fins, and unlike some versions of this Siege, the weapons don't actually collide because they're on like that. You can port him up, gun him up. They actually it looks really good. You also have a port right there. Why? Why would you put a gun on top? Let's just take one of The siege guy's guns. There you go. Now he has an asymmetrical amount of guns. Unfortunately, you can't really use the... Actually, let's try. Can I use the arm port effectively? Oh, God. I just fired a missile. I mean, you could. Actually, you can very well if you just probably use those ports first. So let's move that gun. And now... Oh, you also... I didn't even notice you have two ports on... one on each side of his shins. So you could have potentially 8, 9 guns on this guy. It's a lot of guns. He is armored up and ready to hit nothing. Because rarely could Transformers actually accurately hit each other with their guns. But he can try. He could also try and betray Megatron, but that we know how that ends. With bad comedy. So let's do a comparison. I didn't have this ready beforehand. Because how could I? I don't have 2 copies of these toys. One in robot, one in vehicle mode. But it is the exact same transformation. Just with modern engineering. So there's the old generation. This generation's Thundercracker. But classic Starscream. There he is. Old and new. I like the fact that we have him as a bigger boy now. I like big toys and I cannot lie. Oh, right. I was going to put guns on this guy, but this guy's hogging them all. Starscream, give Thundercracker back his guns. Oh, now I have to transform the siege. Oh. Also, just because I can. Hold on. Here's how he looks with Dirge, who's also getting a version of this mold in a 2-pack with Ramjet, which I have pre-ordered. So hopefully we'll get to that review sometime in October when the toys actually get released this side of the border. But there you go. And now the siege guy, who's not hard, but I just did it like not long before this video. But I guess I'll, while I'm doing this, I might as well give sort of pseudo final thoughts on Starscream. I recommend the Earthrise one over the Siege one. If you're a huge stickler for like G1, Episode 1, Scene 1, and you just have to have a Tetrajet, then sure, this one might tickle you, but might tickle your fancy, but I'm pretty sure most people would rather have the F-15 Eagle than this thing. And however, when did I do that review? I reviewed this guy. I've soured on his transformation a bit because, well, it's kind of a lot of nothing. Like it feels like there are cool moments, but like just the design is lazy. Like the robot really doesn't become the jet, unfortunately. And Earthrise does a lot better job of actually pseudo folding away and hiding, while actually sort of looking like his body parts actually become the jet, even though they really don't, because they're all hiding on the underside. Again, just Starscream has a thing for doing that. But Starscream does feel like he's made. This one feels like he's made out of his alt mode more than this guy. Because this guy, like, the laziness of just putting the chest panel on the back, not even incorporating it into the vehicle mode. There we go. It's also quite a bit longer. Even though, really, you could say the nose cone is the same length. It's just, this is a lot more folded up. It's scrunched. Well, this guy is just kind of like stretched out, lying down, tucked in a bit. Yeah, I recommend this guy over this guy. If you're looking for a modern Starscream, go with this guy. And I could end the video there. However, I also have this guy I want to talk about and don't want to dedicate a whole review to him. This is the sound barrier. They named a transformer the sound barrier, or just sound barrier. There's a shot of him right there. There he is. Little action master, or not even action, well, weaponizer sound barrier. And he's a shield, essentially. There's also the back. So what? Does he like block against high frequency sound waves somehow? Although I don't think Soundwave would like that. If there's a transformer specifically designed to prevent him, like to block him. This I could literally just do this whole review of this guy by just making jokes about the sound barrier. And I'm going to, because I bet he knows a lot of comic book superheroes. He also comes with a little explosion effect part. And yep, this is sound barrier. You know, I expected the sound barrier to be a lot bigger. But his dull, all silver face is kind of hilarious. It's not even like it's. It looks like there's a crack in the visor. But articulation, shoulder ball joint, hip ball joint. Can go everywhere except back because of the backpack, which is his whole alt mode. One of those. Peg the legs together. I could figure this out without even the instructions. Peg the arms into it. And then fold it down over the legs. Make sure they actually have a spot to peg in. And flip out the peg. It's kind of hard to get out because his head doesn't move. Yeah. But there's his alt mode. It's also a ramp for any base former you might have, like Deluxe Ironworks or whatever. He also has the Siege blast pimples, So you could put an effect part there, there. This definitely feels like it should have been released in Siege and just wasn't. It was put on the back burner till Earthrise, but it's got some silver paint with some down arrows and some translucent blue. God. That's actually we're not even gonna put in Starscream's hand. We're just gonna put it on his back like that. Because from what I've heard, he doesn't really look good. Like it doesn't really look like a natural shield in anybody's hands. But let's do the time. Let's do the transform again. Let's go into robot mode just because I can't do. Yeah, do. Oh, right. These are. You can unpeg the wings to the connection port they're on right there. The peg they're on. Come on, peg back in. There we go. So, I guess I could do. Do I recommend sound barrier? Not really, to be honest. It's kind of lame. It's probably one of the worst uh, little uh, weaponizers, and they do the same idea with just the ramp idea, but they do it so much better with like other remolds of it, which I hope to get my hands on eventually. So like he's not even like the only one who uses his same scheme, and he's still kind of the worst at doing it. But if you want a joke, if you want him as a joke, go ahead. Like that's the only way I could really recommend him. If you just want to make jokes about a transformer named Sound Barrier, like I do, I'm. Sometimes I'm a terrible person. Come on, where is that hinge? And that basically means I've reviewed everything in Wave 1 of Earthrise. The only other thing was a repaint of that Warhammer I have with Ultra Magnus. Yeah, and there are no Siege pimples on any Earthrise toy. Actually, that's not true. There are just none on Starscream. So, here. Uh, he's obviously an Autobot given the bright blue, white, and red color scheme, but the only way you could actually have Starscream wear him is on his shoulder, and since he doesn't have the butterfly joint up there, he has the biceps hole. You can't really use him as an effective shield. You can hold him, and now he's holding a shield in his hand, pretending it's a gun, I guess. You could peg it in there, and no, it doesn't look good anywhere. And I don't have anybody ready to be a base right now. So I here I connect into Omega Supreme right here. Show off how much I love Omega Supreme. There, you can do that with the ramp system. So it's really hard to recommend this guy because he kind of sucks in my honest opinion. Limited articulation, bad transformation. He doesn't even work with most toys in or in the line he was put in. He works with Grapple and the leader class Optimus Prime and anyone from Siege, but most people in Earthrise, no, unfortunately not. So, kind of don't. I wouldn't recommend spending your money on him. Buy one of the better weaponizers like the hammer or basically anybody else except this guy. But Starscream, yes, absolutely recommend Starscream. So, thank you for watching. I hope you have enjoyed. This video was way longer than I expected it to be, but oh well. And until next time, may the Allspark protect you and us all. Bye.